with it's often associated with wild animals. The example they give in the book is the tiger was about to maul its victim, because we usually associate with animals doing it. When I wrote my little story about the Battle of Marathon, I used maul when the Persians were fleeing to the ships because the actual phalanxes did more stabbing with the spears, which isn't really the same as mauling. But mauling would be more hacking at someone with a sword, or just whopping them with your hands, but usually we associate with tigers because people don't maul each other. That's not polite at all. Potential now is the next word. Possible, something that can happen. I think we've heard it, and it's also it's an adjective describing something that's possible, and a noun meaning something that can happen. This is a potential. And so let me just put it right in here. And it comes as opposed late 14th century from the French potentialis, Latin potentia, power, force. So it comes from the idea of power, authority, influence, potus, to be powerful, capable of. So it comes from the root poti, and let's just look that right up now. Proto-Indo-European root, powerful lord. So someone with power. So potential is the power to, but it just means something that's possible. So it's potential, that it's potential school will be out for a long time. It's potential, there's a potential that the cases will drop very quickly of corona if people social distance. What could happen? But it's not there's no, it's there's not really that, something that can happen, is basically what it means. Possible, actual, real. So the antonyms, when they look, it's interesting. So actual or real is also an antonym, because potential doesn't mean it's happening. It means it could happen. And if it's not likely or not possible, then it's not really potential. So, okay, so now we're going to go to radiant. I actually got this one when I made a video before that was too big to upload. Hopefully this one will fit. Radiant. This means shining, bright, giving forth energy, from radiant, from the Latin radiantum, beaming, shining. Now, I thought it was from radix, which means root, but there are similar words. I don't know if they both share a older root. I wasn't able to find it here on this website. Spectro, no, radiometric, radiometer, radiance, brighting light. No, but it means to radiate out. It's important. It's good to look at the math. You've studied circles. You see there's a radius of a circle. Let's say this circle, and it goes around like that, and then there's a line that makes a radius of a circle. And let me just see an image here. That'll probably show. Yeah, you see? And so it's like shooting out from this radiant. And I mean, it's similar to radix, because a root shoots out from the center of a tree. But it doesn't, it means beaming, shining out. It's also good, like if you look at radiation, that's a great use of that. You see, that's that symbol, even it shows the center right here, and then shooting out of it is radiation, like the radiation that comes from a phone or from the sun. Look, you see it's so shooting out from the sun. Radio waves shooting out here, radiating, shooting out. Okay, coming out, beaming light. We can't see the light, all light, but that's what it means. And but it's usually has unlike radiation, has a commonly a positive connotation. Glowing, brilliant, dazzling, resplendent. It's can also sort of colloquially mean beautiful, and dull, tarnished, lackluster. And luster, I think, was an old one. So very good. Rural. Rural means relating to the country, and that was probably a German word, because it's Old French. Okay, got me. Rural, Latin ruralis, from the countryside. Rur, Open land. So it means open country. So around from the country, and usually where there are people and where there are farms. So if it's a forest area, but there's a lot of forest, wild, it would be not so much rural. And if it's also what makes it not rural is if it's no, basically if it's wild, even if it's hilly, it could be rural, but it's associated with agriculture. Open tendency to employ rural when the idea of locality, country seems. And this used actually citified and countrified as words. I didn't really think of those as proper uh, words you'd find in a vocabulary book, but they were there. So countrified. Okay. Very good. Rural. So now we're going on to the next word, which is substantial, which comes from the word for stuff or substance, matter, ample, sizable, Old French substantial, and directly from the Latin substantius, having substance or reality, material. And material is an interesting word because material is something you learn about in philosophy. You know what material is, but something that physically has matter. And what matter is things, like something you can physically touch. So something that's substantial. So something without matter is like democracy, or even though light does have some mass, so it does have matter, like light. An image doesn't have material. Vocabulary. These words aren't material. The computer that you're reading them on, or the book you're reading them on, has matter. So substantial means made out of material. That's what it comes from. The word for having material, and it's come to mean significant. So significant, large, important, major. Okay, so if it's significant, substantial, it's something that's considered an amount that's a lot, that's enough to care about. So, not to keep talking about the corona, but when it was like very few people had it, it's like, oh, that's not substantial enough for us to care. But when there's thousands of people, it's like, okay, that's more substantial. Or, talking about food. I'll have 3 dalmadas for lunch. That's not really substantial enough to fill my belly. But like one of the gyros from the King of Gyros is a substantial meal, especially with potatoes and everything. And antonym would be minor, insignificant, negligible. That's a good word here on the book, which means something you can ignore, so small. Not the same as negligent, is not paying attention when you need to in an illegal way, but that's... And ephemeral, I put, is something that exists as an idea or in the air, like a spirit. That's an antonym I added. Music is ephemeral. Like a ghost would be ephemeral. It's the opposite of what's substantial. But substantial has come to mean more than just out of material. That's not really what it means anymore. What it means is significant, a lot. Okay. Or it matters. So that's the same root kind of. It matters. Something that matters is something substantial. They both come from the root. Now tactful. Now you see it's similar to the word tactics, but it's more like tactics in dealing with people. That's the best way of looking at tactful. Pertaining to official documents. Okay, that's tact. From tact and full are the two roots. So let's just say full. Full is we can go. It basically is attached to nouns and having characterized by. It turns. Where's the right turn? It turns. But original separate word. Adjectives. Okay, most English full adjectives at a point or another. Bad passive. So it turns. An adjective. It turns a noun into an adjective. So it's like beauty, which is an ephemeral adjective, into an ephemeral noun. The idea of beauty, the idea of beauty, grace, hurt would be all nouns describing a feeling or an idea, but you put full on it, hurtful, beautiful, graceful, and it turns it into an adjective. So it's basically a word that turns a noun into an adjective. And full perfect. Yep. And let's go back. And tact. Let's just look at the word tact, which should say a sense of touching or feeling. Okay. So touching, feeling. Tact, tactile, Okay, and that comes from, let me see. Does it say where it is? A sense of feeling? Well, it should be Latin. Latin tactus, a sense of touch, tact. And so, touchful, being able to be in touch. Basically, tactful is you're in touch with people. So, have you ever heard, oh, he's out of touch? Probably not a very tactful person, because they can't feel out people. So, you see the words translate sort of loosely. Baby. Okay, tamper. So let's just read tamper. Hopefully I don't overrun. Tamper is to interfere with, to meddle with, to kind of interfere in an inappropriate way. Often it's used nowadays, like let's say someone's tampering with election results. If let's say they were running for school president and George Papadopoulos or I don't know, Maria Georgopoulos were running against each other, and George Papadopoulos turned all the votes for him, then George Papadopoulos would have tampered with the elections. Meddle, interfere, tamper, variant of temper. So it's probably originally a variant of the word temper, which means to bring to a state or modify through some excessive restraint. So temporal, a change related to the seasons. So temper is to interfere with. Now temper is more of a, in metallurgy, it's you take a hot metal, you put it in cold oil to solidify it, to change its state, and that's more of a I know she's not bad. She but in English nowadays it has a very negative connotation to tamper. It's you're changing in a bad way. And in my little story I said the Persians were tampering with the Greeks. Usually it's related to documents or with official records, but if you can tamper with someone's life. The coronavirus is tampering with our lives. It's affecting someone in a negative way, unwanted way. Ultimatum means the end, the last. Ultimus, the last one. Ultimus, there, past participle, ultimate, to be final, to come at the end. And often things that mean the best, the first or the last, relate to also being the best. Last, farthest, and so this means the last. But what it has come to mean is it's almost the best or an extreme thing. Fundamental. California is our ultimate destination, so it's the final destination. So, but I could say like the king of gyros is the ultimate gyro you could ever have. Immediate nearest. Okay, very good. And now the last one, uncertainty, not being certain. So that's pretty we don't have to look it up because we don't have that much time. And means not. Undo, unlike, uncertainty. And that's uncertain is an adjective, and uncertainty is a noun. So the Y, as we know, makes an adjective into, or ty, an adjective into a noun. We're not going to go into that because we know that. The Y makes an adjective into a noun. And it comes from hesitation, uncertain, doubt. Okay, it comes from word doubt. Let's see, uncertain. Let's just look up uncertain. Of indeterminate time or occurrence. Plus certain. So it comes from plus certain. Let's just certain, fixed, determined. From Old French, reliable, assured. From Vulgar Latin, certinus, extended from Latin certus. So it's uncertain, not fixed. And fixed in this case, we don't really know what fixed means. Like you said, it's fixed election. Fixed means it's attached, like the park benches in the city are fixed to the ground, like cemented to the ground. So unfixed. So when people say a fixed election, what that really means is it was certain what was going to happen because, I was going to hold an election, but I was just going to make sure I win. Like, let's say Soviet Union. You're voting for Stalin's going to win the election, regardless of who people vote for. But they, in the Soviet Union, you better vote for Stalin. Anyway, those are the 20 words, and have a great day. How do I stop this?